Hey everyone, today I'd like to take a casual peek into my first Q&A session. Several weeks ago, I just reached over 200 subscribers, and as part of my thanks to the subscribers, I thought it'd be cool to do a Q&A session. So I asked everyone out there if they wanted to go ahead and submit some questions. I didn't expect to get too many questions, but I did get a few, and I hope everyone will enjoy this. I'm gonna start this Q&A session sort of like a podcast, but with a montage of photos on the screen of all of the neat stuff I've taken peeks at in the past. So I hope you enjoy the pictures as well. So let's go ahead and get started. And I'm gonna mix up all of these questions because a few of you sent me quite a bit of questions, especially you, Lunacy05. You're the one that you practically sent almost half the questions I have to answer. So let's start this question from Lunacy05. Which DC characters would you like to see hit the big screen and why? Well, this one's pretty easy for me. The one I'd want to see hit the big screen is Nightwing, mainly because he's my favorite superhero. Now, not only in the DC universe, but in all of the comics universes. And I don't want to see a Schumacher Nightwing, but more of a like a Chris Nolan type of Nightwing. I'd love to see Nightwing in his blue and black hitting the streets of Bloodhaven. Now, I know there's a fan-made trailer of Nightwing out there on the interwebs, but I would love to see a Nightwing as a full-length movie. Okay, let's see. Next question from Thunderhound369. Whose videos do you enjoy watching? Well, I enjoy watching videos from the people I'm subscribed to. Otherwise, I wouldn't subscribe to them. But of all the videos I enjoy watching videos from users who display their collections. I just love watching collection videos. Just seeing all those figures on the shelves or in display cases. I think it's really, really cool. And especially seeing figures I've never seen before, I don't have, or I've seen in my youth and just haven't seen since. And to have fellow collectors show their figures and other, not just figures, but other toys as well. So everyone out there in the community, go ahead and start shooting your videos of your collections, because I'd love to see them. Especially yours, Thunderhound. I haven't seen your collection video yet. So on to the next question. This one's another one from Lunacy05. Which of the G.I. Joe action figure toy lines are you fond of collecting and why? Now, Lunacy, you're probably expecting me to answer Sigma 6, but it's not Sigma 6. It comes as a close second, but the one I have the most fondness of collecting is the G.I. Joe Classic Collection. Now, that's a line of 12-inch Joes that was released in the mid-90s. It was part of the 12-inch Joe revival. And that was when I really started collecting action figures seriously. And seeing those figures brought about a lot of memories because I grew up with the Adventure Team G.I. Joes from the mid to late 70s. And just collecting those Joes in the 90s was a great time for me. And I still have them. They're in the garage. A lot of them are in tubs. I'm not sure when I'll ever bring them out of the garage to do a casual peek on. Maybe soon. We'll see. Okay, let's go ahead and answer another of Lunacy's questions. Aside from Lord of the Rings, what other fantasy shows slash movies from the 80s to the 90s period are your favorite? Okay, I can't even recall too many fantasy shows from the 80s to the 90s, but for movies, there's actually quite a few. The first one I'd mention is Excalibur by John Boorman in the early 80s. That movie was the perfect fantasy movie for me growing up, just getting into D&D. It had, sword and sorcery, and not to mention all of these great actors who weren't famous at the time. You had Patrick Stewart, Gabriel Byrne, you had Liam Neeson, you even had, oh my gosh, Helen Mirren. Growing up watching Helen Mirren play Morgan Le Fay, that was perfect for any young male at that time. And it's just, I thought at the time it was a perfect fantasy movie. Not to mention, of course, there was very cheesy acting, but just the setting was great. Not to mention the music. You had perfect fitting music by Richard Wagner, especially his Ring Cycle, although that was set to a different story. But anyways, you had the Ring Cycle, you had Percival, which is a perfect fit for Percival, and you had Carl Orff's Orff Utana, which was the perfect rallying cry music. And you got just music, setting, story, just perfect fantasy movie from the 80s. Another favorite fantasy was actually a trilogy. Well, loose trilogy, and these are the three films by Terry Gilliam, the Imagination trilogy, beginning with Time Bandits. I think that was in the 80s. I don't think it was in the 70s. Yeah, it was in the 80s. And the second movie was Brazil, and the third movie was The Adventures of Baron Munchausen. And those three movies pretty much captured the essence of mankind's imagination, with Time Bandits being early youth, Brazil being adulthood, and Munchausen being old age. You can't really top Terry Gilliam when it comes to imaginative films, especially those three from the 80s. Okay, the next question is from Cud the Destroyer. What's your favorite point of articulation? The one that makes or breaks the sale of a figure for you? Well, I can't say that a figure's articulation would ever determine whether I would buy a figure or not. I think our articulation on a figure is dependent on the character. Some figures need the articulation, such as Spider-Man, because he gets into those crazy poses. But there are some figures that don't really need too much articulation, maybe because of their bulk or whatever. But if I were to choose a favorite point of articulation, I'm trying to think, probably the head. Because it's the most expressive part of the body. If you have the figure straight up and down and just move the head by itself, you can get quite a few expressions out of the figure. You can't really say that for the other parts of the body of the figure. The other parts of the body are dependent on each other, or a combination of other points of articulation for expression. But the head alone provides a lot of expression. So I would think the head would be my most important point of articulation on a figure. Okay, even though we have the new 15-minute time limits on these videos, I'm going to try to keep these Q&A videos to 10 minutes. So stay tuned. We'll go ahead and continue the questions and answers in the next video. I'll see you then.